Welcome to Shadowlands Ghosts, a place where the veil between reality and the unknown is at its thinnest. I'm your host, Raven Blackwood, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this journey into the heart of darkness. As we delve into the mysteries of the paranormal, I want you to feel at home, so let's get comfortable. You know that feeling when you're sitting in a cozy living room, surrounded by the warmth of a crackling fireplace and the soft glow of the evening sun? Yeah, that's what I'm going for here. But of course with a twist. You see, in the world of Shadowlands Ghosts, nothing is as it seems. The ordinary can quickly turn into the extraordinary, and the lines between reality and nightmare can blur. So, sit back, relax, and let me tell you a story. It's a story about a young couple who thought they had found the perfect babysitter for their child. But, as they soon discovered, their new nanny had a dark and tragic past. She had died years ago, under circumstances that would haunt anyone's dreams. Yet, every night, she would sit in their living room, watching over their child with an unsettling intensity. This is The Ghostly Babysitter, a tale that will take you on a journey into the very heart of horror. But don't worry, I won't be the one telling you this story. No, I'll be handing the reins over to the lead character, who will guide you through the twists and turns of this terrifying tale. So, if you're ready to enter a world of fear and suspense, subscribe to our channel and join our little family of ghost enthusiasts. Trust me, you won't regret it. The sun had just begun to set on our quiet suburban street, casting a warm orange glow over the tidy houses and neatly manicured lawns. My husband, John, and I had spent the day running errands and preparing for our big night out, and I couldn't wait to put on my new dress and enjoy a well-deserved evening of dinner and dancing. Our 6-month-old daughter, Emily, was sleeping peacefully in her crib, and we had just hired a new babysitter to watch her while we were out. Her name was Sarah, and she had come highly recommended by our friends who lived next door. We had interviewed her earlier that week, and she seemed like the perfect candidate for the job. She was friendly, responsible, and had a way with children that put us both at ease. As we were getting ready to leave, Sarah arrived promptly at 6 p.m., looking crisp and professional in her white blouse and black skirt. "Hello again," she said with a smile, as she took Emily's sleeping form from me. "Don't worry, I'll take good care of her. You two go and enjoy your evening." I felt a surge of gratitude towards her as I watched her gently rock Emily back and forth in her arms. There was something about Sarah that seemed almost maternal. A warmth and a kindness that put me at ease and made me feel like I was leaving my child in good hands. As we were leaving the house, I noticed something odd. Sarah seemed to be staring at a particular spot on the wall, her eyes fixed intently on something that I couldn't see. I followed her gaze, but there was nothing there. Just a blank patch of paint where a family portrait used to hang. "Sarah, is everything okay?" I asked, feeling a faint sense of unease. She turned to me, her eyes sparkling with a warm smile. "Yes, everything is fine," she said. "I was just admiring your decor. You have a lovely home." I smiled back at her, feeling a little foolish for my concerns. I was sure it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But as we closed the door behind us, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. A faint sense of unease that lingered in the back of my mind, like a whisper in the darkness. As we drove away from the house, the silence between John and I was filled with anticipation for our night ahead. But I couldn't shake the image of Sarah staring at that blank patch of wall. It was just a fleeting moment, but it had left a lasting impression on me. I pushed the thought aside and focused on the excitement of our evening out. As we approached the restaurant, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief that we had finally made it out of the house. The maitre d' greeted us warmly and led us to our table by the window. We ordered our food and drinks, and the conversation flowed easily as we chatted about our day. But as I glanced at my watch, I noticed it was already 8 p.m. I felt a sudden pang of worry, wondering if Sarah was taking care of Emily. I reassured myself that she was more than capable, but the feeling persisted. As we were enjoying our main course, my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. I hesitated for a moment before answering it, and my eyes widened as I read the message. Emily is crying. My heart skipped a beat as I showed the message to John, who immediately asked if I wanted to call Sarah to check on Emily. I nodded, and he quickly dialed the number. The phone rang several times before Sarah answered, her voice apologetic. "I'm so sorry." Emily woke up and was crying. I've been trying to soothe her, but she seems a bit unsettled. "I think it's just a minor tantrum, but I wanted to let you know." I breathed a sigh of relief, feeling a little foolish for my earlier worries. But as I hung up the phone, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Why did Sarah send a text message instead of calling? And why did the message come from an unknown number? I pushed the thoughts aside, focusing on the evening at hand. But as we continued our conversation, I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. The laughter and chatter of the restaurant seemed to fade into the background as my mind wandered back to the house, to Emily, and to Sarah's enigmatic smile. The clock on the wall seemed to be ticking away, each passing minute stretching out like an eternity. I felt a creeping sense of dread, as if something is waiting for me in the shadows, watching and waiting. And then I saw it, a figure standing outside the restaurant window, gazing in at us with an unblinking stare. For a moment, our eyes locked, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. But when I turned to John to point out the figure, it was gone. The window was empty, and the street was quiet. I turned back to John, who was looking at me with concern. "What's wrong?" he asked. I hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Was I just seeing things? Or was something more sinister at play? "Nothing," I replied finally, forcing a smile onto my face. "I just thought I saw someone outside." John nodded, but I could sense his skepticism. He didn't believe me, and I couldn't blame him. After all, I had no proof of anything. But as we continued our evening, I couldn't shake the feeling that we're being watched. And the question that echoed in my mind, what's really going on at home? The darkness outside seemed to press in around us, a suffocating shroud that threatened to engulf us at any moment. I felt the air grow thick with tension, and the laughter and chatter of the restaurant seemed to grow fainter, until it was almost inaudible. And then, just as we were finishing our dessert, my phone buzzed again. This time was a call from our home phone. I answered it, my heart racing with anticipation. "Hello?" A faint voice replied. It was Emily's voice, but it sounded different. The tone was flat and emotionless, and it sent shivers down my spine. "Emily," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "What's going on?" There was a pause, and then a voice replied, "Mommy, I'm playing with Sarah." But the voice that spoke was not Emily's. It was a voice I didn't recognize, a voice that sent a chill down my spine. "Hello," I replied, my voice shaking. "Who is this?" The line went dead, As I stood there, phone still clutched in my trembling hand, the world around me seemed to melt away. The restaurant, the laughter, the chatter, everything receded into the background as a crushing sense of horror took hold of me. The voice on the phone, a voice that had claimed to be Emily, but was unmistakably not, echoed in my mind like a scream in the darkness. I stumbled backward, away from the table, my eyes fixed on John, who was looking at me with a mixture of confusion and concern. But I couldn't speak. I couldn't form words. All I could do was point at the phone, my hand shaking like a leaf. John's expression changed from confusion to alarm as he realized something was terribly wrong. He jumped up from his seat and rushed to my side, grabbing my arm and spinning me around to face him. "What is it?" he demanded, his voice low and urgent. "What's going on?" I tried to speak, but my voice was trapped in my throat. All I could do was shake my head and point at the phone again. John's eyes widened as he realized the truth. He grabbed the phone from my hand and dialed a number, his fingers flying across the keypad. As he waited for the call to connect, he turned to me and said, "We need to get out of here. Now." I nodded, my heart racing with fear. I knew that we had to get back to the house, to Emily. I knew that something was terribly wrong. As we rushed out of the restaurant, the night air hit me like a slap in the face. It was cold and dark, and it seemed to press in around me like a physical force. I stumbled, my legs trembling beneath me. John caught my arm and pulled me along, his grip like a vice. "Come on," he said, his voice low and urgent. "We have to get out of here." We ran to the car, the darkness closing in around us like a shroud. As we sped away from the restaurant, I caught a glimpse of the window we had sat at, and I saw a figure standing there, watching us. The figure was Sarah. And as I watched, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the darkness. I knew then that I had been right all along. Something was terribly wrong. And I knew that I had to face it head on if I was going to save Emily. The car screeched to a halt outside the house, and I leapt out, racing to the front door. I flung it open and rushed inside, calling out for Emily. But there was no answer. And then I saw her. Emily was sitting on the couch, her eyes fixed on me with a vacant stare. But it was the figure standing behind her that made my blood run cold. It was Sarah, and she was not alone. Behind her, standing in the shadows, was a figure I didn't recognize. A figure with eyes that glowed like embers in the dark. I tried to scream, but my voice was trapped in my throat. I tried to run, but my legs were frozen in place. And as I watched, the figure began to move towards me, its eyes fixed on me with an unspeakable horror. I knew then that I was staring into the face of evil itself. And I knew that I might not make it out alive. As the figure began to move towards me, I felt a sense of dread wash over me, a creeping horror that seeped into every cell of my body. The eyes, those glowing embers, seemed to burn brighter as they drew closer, illuminating the dark recesses of my own soul. I tried to raise my hands, to push them away, but they felt heavy, unresponsive. Sarah's face was a mask of twisted delight, her eyes gleaming with a malevolent intensity as she watched the figure approach me. Emily, still seated on the couch, seemed frozen in place, her vacant stare a testament to the horror that had already consumed her. The figure loomed closer, its presence suffocating, crushing. I felt my breath catch in my throat, my heart racing with fear. The eyes, those burning coals, seemed to bore into my very essence, revealing the darkest fears that lurked within. And then, as if drawn by some unseen force, I took a step forward. My legs felt like lead, but I moved, drawn inexorably towards the figure, towards the horror that it embodies. The figure reached out a hand, its fingers like skeletal claws, and grasped my wrist. I felt a jolt of electricity run through my body, a searing pain that seemed to course through every vein. As I looked up into those glowing eyes, I saw my own reflection staring back at me. But it was not my face, not my eyes. It was something else, something ancient, something evil. The figure's grip tightened, and I felt myself being pulled closer, closer to the abyss. I saw Emily, still frozen in place, her eyes vacant, her soul consumed. Sarah's laughter echoed through the room, a maniacal cackle that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. The figure's grip tightened further, and I felt my body begin to change. My muscles tensed, my fingers curled into fists. My heart pounded in my chest, and my breath came in ragged gasps. I felt my body contort, twist, and writhe, as if it was being reshaped by some unseen force. The figure's eyes seemed to burn brighter, illuminating the dark recesses of my own soul. And in that moment, I knew that I was no longer myself. I was something else, something ancient, something evil. The figure's grip released, and I stumbled backward, gasping for breath. As I looked down at my hands, I saw that they were no longer mine. They were twisted, gnarled, and deformed. I looked up, and the figure's eyes met mine, burning with an unspeakable horror. I knew then that I was staring into the face of evil itself, and that I might never be the same again. The last thing I remember is the sound of Sarah's laughter, echoing through the room as the darkness closed in around me. As I stumbled backward, my deformed hands grasped for something, anything, to anchor myself to reality. But everything seemed to be slipping away. The room was a blur, a twisted funhouse of horrors that seemed to shift and writhe like a living thing. Sarah's laughter still echoed through the air, a maddening cackle that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. I tried to cover my ears, but the sound was inside my head, a constant reminder of the horror that I had faced. I looked down at my hands again, and they seemed to be changing, twisting, and contorting into grotesque parodies of their former selves. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, and my stomach churned with a sickening dread. The figure was still there, watching me with eyes that burned with an unspeakable horror. I knew that I was staring into the face of evil itself, and that I might never be the same again. As the darkness closed in around me, I felt a creeping sense of dread that seemed to seep into every cell of my body. I was no longer myself, but something else, something ancient, something evil. And in that moment, I knew that I was lost forever. The last thing I remember is the sound of Sarah's laughter, echoing through the room as the darkness consumed me whole. When I came to, I was lying on the floor, my deformed hands still twisted and gnarled. The room was quiet, the only sound the faint whisper of the wind outside. Sarah and Emily were gone, but the figure was still there, watching me with eyes that burned with an unspeakable horror. I knew that I was not alone, that the evil that had consumed me was still there, waiting to strike. As I stumbled to my feet, I caught a glimpse of myself in a mirror. My eyes were not my own, but those of the figure, burning with an unspeakable horror. I knew then that I was no longer human, but a vessel for the evil that had consumed me. The figure's eyes seemed to burn brighter, illuminating the dark recesses of my own soul. And in that moment, I knew that I was forever changed, that I was now a part of the horror that I had faced. I am still here, trapped in this body, this shell of a human being. The figure is still with me, watching me, waiting for me to unleash the horror that I now embody. And when I look into the mirror, I see the figure's eyes staring back at me, burning with an unspeakable horror, reminding me that I am no longer myself, but a monster, a vessel for the evil that has consumed me. The darkness is still here, waiting for me, and I know that I will never be free. The horror that I faced that day has become a part of me, a constant reminder of the evil that lurks within. And when the darkness closes in around me, I know that I will never be the same again. Epilogue: the reflection of horror. I stand before the mirror, my eyes locked on the reflection staring back at me. The figure's eyes, those burning orbs of unspeakable horror, still gaze back at me, a constant reminder of the evil that I now embody. It has been years since that fateful day, but the memories still linger, haunting me with every breath. I am no longer the person I once was. The darkness has consumed me, and I am now a vessel for the evil that I faced. My deformed hands still bear the scars of that day, a twisted reminder of the horrors I experienced. The world sees me as a monster, a creature driven by an insatiable hunger for destruction. They fear me, and rightly so, for I am no longer human, but a shell of what I once was. The figure's presence is always with me, guiding my actions, whispering in my ear. But there are moments, fleeting and rare, when the old me resurfaces. Moments when the darkness recedes, and I catch a glimpse of the person I once was. It is in these moments that I am reminded of the horror that I have become. I am trapped in this prison of flesh, a shell of a human being, forever bound to the evil that has consumed me. The darkness is always there, waiting to close in around me, to remind me of the horror that I am. And yet, in these moments of clarity, I am aware of a glimmer of hope. A hope that one day I might find a way to break free from this prison, to cast off the shackles of the evil that binds me. But until that day, I remain a monster, a creature driven by the darkness within. The figure's eyes still burn bright, a reminder of the horror that I am and the evil that I now embody. As I turn away from the mirror, I catch a glimpse of a figure standing in the shadows. It is Sarah, her eyes black as coal, her smile twisted and cruel. She reaches out a hand, beckoning me to follow her back into the darkness. I hesitate for a moment, and then I take her hand. The darkness closes in around me, and I am gone. The mirror still reflects my image, but it is no longer me. The figure's eyes still burn bright, a reminder of the horror that I am and the evil that I now embody. The darkness is won, and I am forever lost. But the question remains, what happens when the darkness is not just within, but also without? What happens when the evil that I am becomes the evil that I face? Only time will tell. Thank you for joining me on this haunting journey as we explored the depths of horror and the darkness that lies within. I hope that the story of my transformation into a monster has left you with a lasting impression, and perhaps even sparked a sense of introspection about the darkness that may reside within ourselves. As we conclude this tale of horror, I want to express my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you who has watched, shared, and engaged with this content. Your support means the world to me, and I am humbled by the fact that you have chosen to spend your time with me, exploring the darker corners of the human experience. If you enjoyed this story, I invite you to subscribe to our channel for more thrilling and thought-provoking content. We will continue to push the boundaries of horror, exploring the darkest aspects of human nature and the supernatural forces that lurk in the shadows. By subscribing, you will gain access to exclusive content, including behind-the-scenes insights, bonus episodes, and early access to new releases. You will also be part of a community that shares your passion for horror and your enthusiasm for exploring the unknown. So, if you're ready to dive deeper into the darkness and to experience the thrill of horror in all its forms, then hit that subscribe button and join our community. Together, we will venture into the unknown and uncover the secrets that lie within the shadows. Thank you once again for watching, and I look forward to sharing more horror with you in the future. The darkness awaits, and I'll see you in the shadows. And that is where you come in, dear viewer. Your support and encouragement are essential to my journey. By subscribing to this channel, you are not just joining a community of like-minded individuals who share a passion for horror and the supernatural. You are also supporting my quest for freedom and redemption. Together, we can explore the depths of the human psyche and confront the horrors that lurk within. Together, we can uncover the secrets of the mirror, and perhaps, one day, I will be free. So, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel. It is a small act, but it means the world to me. Your support will give me the strength to continue my fight and to keep the mirror's dark designs at bay. And as a token of my appreciation, I will continue to share my story with you in all its gruesome and terrifying detail. I will delve deeper into the mysteries of the mirror, and I will explore the horrors that lurk beyond the veil of reality. So, thank you again for watching, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you. Subscribe now, and together, let's face the horrors that lurk in the shadows. Click the subscribe button, and let's start our journey into the heart of terror.